ALDREN was a CSA project that started at the end of 2017 and which lasted 3 years and ended at the end of 2020, at the end of last year. Just trying to move the slides so it's working. So 8 European partners were involved from different fields, technical and research institutions, building certifiers and companies and professional associations. You can see a picture here because we organized an event in the EU Parliament 1 year ago to discuss the renovation wave and to present the outputs of the project. The core of the project was to answer EPBD Article 11.9, which states that the Commission should adopt a voluntary common European certification scheme for non-residential buildings. And so ALDREN developed the backbone of this scheme, which is in fact a voluntary EPC for hotels and offices, and which is made of several pages and sets of indicators that, so in the end, this voluntary EPC is standalone. It can be used per se, with set of indicators, reporting pages, and also links with associated tools. I will speak about that quickly. And it's modular, which means that with the indicators and the different modules, you can have this informative reporting in mandatory EPCs. So you could use part of ALDREN or the whole of ALDREN as additional information for mandatory national EPCs. And the other key point of the project was to study non-energy benefits of deep renovation and to rate them. So we developed an indicator for health and well-being, a rating at EU scale. We studied the potential inclusion of SRI and explanations about its components to make it user-friendly, and the link with investments or financial indicators, obsolescence risks of buildings. So you see the pages corresponding of the EVC about these non-energy benefits that we report in the ALDREN EVC. So quickly, 4 standalone modules in the project about energy rating and targets, energy verification, comfort, well-being, cost, value, and risk. And 2 complementary reporting tools, so this European voluntary certificate and also BRP, which is in fact a tool that you can use through time with more detailed information that targets rather building managers, and that complements the EVC, which targets rather investors and building owners with more summarized information. With consistency of data between both tools developed in the project. We implemented the approach on 20 pilot studies in Europe, in several countries, and so we saw that ALDREN answers a market request from investors, building owners, real estate companies, with a better knowledge of buildings and their operation, a clear vision of potential performance and renovation step to reach NZEB level over time, a clear interest about the increased competitiveness in real estate market if you have an improved overall performance related to energy improvements, also health, comfort, and management of obsolescence risks and resilience of buildings in the future, and a link between innovation actions and cost value of the building on the market to be able for building owners and real estate companies to interact with banks, investors, and property funds to convince them to provide funding for deep renovation ambitious projects. So just 2 insights. We have some, in fact, proposals or ideas also we would like to push forward in the consultation because we tested them, in fact, in the ALDREN project, so we have some feedback. The first one is that we think there could be a reporting of an EU performance rating on EPCs that would be alongside national EPC ratings as an additional section. We developed that in the ALDREN project because we developed this European rating scale that we calibrated with an NZEB level European based on the recommendations from the Commission, which is the class A of the scale. And the idea is to ensure comparability of EPCs between countries. So we are not going to replace, of course, the national ratings, but this way, if you have a EU energy class, you have the potential to do a EU benchmark. And European money for European method, because then with comparability of ratings from a country to another one, it will help to use EPCs better for EU funding and EU taxonomy. So we developed that for 2 types of buildings and 3 climates, and it's consistent with step-by-step renovation roadmaps. And the other key insight from the project is that we could have mandatory sets of indicators, non-energy, to highlight non-energy benefits in EPCs, to raise awareness with still voluntary or mandatory pages in national EPCs, which we tried with the modular approach of ALDREN, and to estimate all benefits from renovation. So we developed very quickly detailed rating about comfort and well-being, so temperature, acoustics, lighting, and air quality. For the SRI, we try to provide on EPC pages more details about its key components to make it more straightforward and user-friendly for building owners, because it's a very dense indicator with a lot of information. And we also studied market value and income increase after renovation with a new risk indicator that will assess the climate resilience and potential obsolescence of the building if it's not renovated. And that could be used by investors to channel funding for renovations. So that's it for the ALDREN project. So now we leave the floor to the sister projects when we start with X-tendo.
Yes, so thanks for the opportunity to share some thoughts and results from the X-tendo project with you. My name is Lukas Kranzl. I'm working at TU Wien and I'm the coordinator of the project. X-tendo stands for Extending the Energy Performance Assessment and Certification Schemes via a Modular Approach. The objective of the project is to support public authorities to properly implement, well manage and organize the transition to next generation EPCs. And this transition to next generation EPCs we have organized in the project along 10 features. 10 features we again clustered into 2 groups. The first group are the 5 features on innovative EPC indicators, and the second group, the innovative handling of EPC data. And for each feature, we are developing certain methods, approaches, guidelines. We test them in buildings or corresponding system environments, and we discuss with stakeholders how an implementation can work. So one of the key prerequisites of the X-tendo project is that EPCs need to be adopted better to end users' needs. As an end user and having a look on the EPC, I want to know, will I feel comfortable in my new home? And what about indoor air quality? Maybe also contribution to outdoor air quality, and very important to understand the energy label and how is it linked with my real energy consumption. So these are topics on which we are working in this first set of features. And when we're talking about adding additional information, I think it's always important to also make sure we find a balance between providing additional information, user-friendliness, and the costs and benefits and how this can be clearly presented. For some indicators, in particular the comfort indicator, we also need to distinguish clearly between asset rating and operational rating of buildings. So what is the key intention, what is the objective of this specific EPC scheme? To ensure this balance between costs and benefits, we have embedded the work into 4 cross-cutting criteria. So we want to ensure quality and reliability, user-friendliness, economic feasibility, and compliance with international standards. We already heard before that under the EPD revision, mandatory renovation requirements are being proposed and discussed. And I'm convinced that under such a policy setting, under such a regime of mandatory renovation requirements, there will be even a higher need for better guidance on the related renovation measures. So we need to improve the recommendations in EPCs, and we also need to accompany them better by building renovation passports, because I'm convinced that recommendations in EPCs have another objective than very detailed building renovation passports, which should serve more on avoiding lock-in effects and so on. Second, we need better accessible data. Here, logbooks will be an essential tool. Logbooks with clearly defined scope embedded in a clear legal framework. And of course, EPC databases are more and more important, not only as a basis of information for policymakers, but also for quality control measures and feedback loops to training of EPC assessors. And finally, we need the one-stop shops for implementation by establishing a connection between market actors and a link to financing options. Again, building logbooks, renovation passports, and so on. They can remove barriers and exploit the saving potentials. We're working on all these aspects and features in the second group of topics. And to come to an end, I want to raise your attention to two reports that we published last year. The first on the current status of EPCs and their potentials in European member states. We show the, let's say, to which extent reliability still needs to be improved, also to which extent the availability and coverage of EPCs needs to be enhanced. And the second report on understanding end-user needs and expectations of next-generation EPCs. We carried out a quite big end-user survey in 5 European countries to better understand the end-user needs and have a basis to develop our 10 features. Introductory reports and methods for each feature will be available very soon on our X-tendo toolbox, and after testing them, we will have the final methods available next year. That's it. Thanks. I hope and think I kept the 5 minutes limit. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Lukas, for perfect time management and this very interesting presentation. So let's move on with QualDeEPC.
Yes, thank you for the invitation to this workshop. My name is Stefan Thomas. I'm working at the Wuppertal Institute for Climate, Environment and Energy, and I'm the coordinator of the QualDeEPC project. In this acronym, you see quality and deep renovation, because it stands for High Quality Energy Performance Assessment and Certification in Europe, Accelerating Deep Energy Renovation. One more. So the partners, again, you can see that later on. We have 12 partners from 8 European countries, and in 7 of these countries there will be the detailed assessment and implementation of the EPC schemes and improvements. Our objectives are to enhance assessment, certification, and verification regarding both the quality and cross-EU convergence of the EPC schemes, and particularly the link between EPCs and deep renovation. For that purpose, we started with a thorough analysis of existing EPC schemes in all EU member states plus the UK, regarding especially whether a list of up to 50, almost 50 potential improvements to EPC schemes on assessment, issuance, design, verification and use are implemented already, and in which way, what are strengths and weaknesses of the national schemes. And we also have 4 rounds of workshops to gain stakeholder feedback in our project. And with the first round of these workshops, we boiled down this list to 7 priorities. We currently are in the development and testing phase of the project. And in October, we published the green paper on good practice in EPC assessment, certification and use that includes the draft solutions in these 7 priority areas. And these development priorities are First of all, improving the recommendations for renovation that have to be provided on the EPCs so that they become the first step towards deep energy renovation. Then two tools that help linking these renovation recommendations and the EPCs with the implementation process. Priority B is an online tool that will allow users to get a first impression of the quality of their building and deeper energy renovation recommendations. As a start, also to know what to ask the advisors for, either when getting an EPC or a deeper advice. The next C is what we call deep renovation network platforms, which are one-stop shops for information, plus a function to link market actors on the supply side and their training and communication to potential investors. The next two have components both in regard to deep renovation and other aspects of the EPC schemes and other purposes of the EPCs. D is a proposal for regular mandatory assessor training as a requirement for certification or accreditation and registry, and to keep that accreditation. So that's why it should be regular, and it could focus both on updates in the assessment schemes and on to improving the renovation recommendations. E then is aiming to improve the user friendliness of the EPC forms. And there we developed an enhanced template. And the last two are then related to the mandatory use of the energy performance data or energy classes from EPCs in advertisements of buildings for rent or sale. There could be a tool for building owners that makes it easier for them to comply with this requirement, which could be advertising guidelines, which could be voluntary or mandatory. And finally, we looked at other potential ways to improve this compliance with the use of EPCs and EPC data in real estate advertisements. Just two examples. One is the recommendations that should be compatible with deep renovation and maybe also the first step to building deep renovation roadmap. Our guiding principle is that these should include component efficiency levels that are derived from NZEP standards, which we consider to be based on cost optimality, and which we take as a proxy for a deep renovation standard because it is not yet existing. And so we have, as a policy proposal, 15 areas of recommendations, and here you can see two examples. And these, as well as the next, the improved, enhanced template for an EPC that could also be harmonized between or converging between the member states, is being tested currently in 100 pilot buildings. So you see the A plus or A to H scale, and the information would also be from a main option, a combination of recommendations, how much energy can be saved and how would the energy class improve and the energy performance. In the remainder of the project, we will have 2 more rounds of dialogues to provide guidance and also policy recommendations. And we will aim to implement some of the elements like the online platform and the deep renovation network platforms in the 7 member states participating in our project. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Stefan, for your presentation, very complete. Let's leave the floor now to the U-CERT project. I don't hear you on U-CERT side. Maybe it's the case also for other attendees. Maybe your microphone is off.
I cannot see my. Okay. Yes.
We can hear you now. Yeah, it was not the case before. Maybe just for me, but.
Yes, it is okay. My screen was disappearing. Sorry for that. U-CERT towards a new generation of user-centered energy performance assessment and certification, facilitated and powered by the EPE Center. To give you an idea, the EPE Center, not many of you know it, it is the Service Center for Information and Technical Support on the new set of EPE standards and the international accepted assessment procedures for energy certificates. For more information, I can just refer you to the center website. The U-CERT project in a nutshell, we started in 2019, and the main issue is to introduce a next generation of user-centered energy performance assessment and certification scheme. Value buildings in a holistic and cost-effective manner, supported by an EU-wide training and certification process for building professionals, and facilitate versions and quality and reliability using the EPE standards that has been developed under the mandate 480 and have been published in 2017, 2018, and are generally used by all member states as a basis for the assessment procedures for their energy certificates. But we try to present also national and regional choices on a comparable basis, because all the standards, they allow the users of the standards, the regulators in the member states, to use national choices, simplification levels, which makes it difficult to compare the energy certificates of buildings in the different member states. And we try to give a comparable basis for that as well, to help the member states to see how to do that in a proper way. Encourage the development and application of a holistic centered innovative solutions, including the smart readiness indicator, and encourage and support end users in decision making. So decision making on a deep renovation and nudge for better purchasing and instill trust by making visible the added value of the use of the energy performance certificates, but also the added value of deep renovation towards the better indoor environment in buildings. Strengthening the actual implementation of the EPD by providing and applying insights from perspective of all involved stakeholders. And we try to facilitate that and empower that in the near future in the EPE Center. So these three transitions parts was envisioned by the U-CERT a full smooth implementation of the EPBD and the underlying standards to assess the building energy performance, to go to the user-centered design for facilitating and accelerating building performance improvements, ranging from behavior change all the way to deep renovation. So show that also the user is center of the energy performance of buildings as well. And the leverage the synergies between smart readiness indicator for buildings and the set of EPBD standards, shifting to the current EPC paradigm to evidence-based approach. For example, the building operational rating. Problem that operational rating is different from the asset rating, and how to show to the building owner and user how to handle that. Slide, yes. What we try to do is say, based on what the building assessor does and giving advice to handle operational rating, giving guidance how to deal with measured data as a basis for the building assessor and consultant to give information to the builder owner how to deal with the renovation process, coming to the operational rating solution. So compare the calculated data, the asset rating, with the measured data, producing advice on the building performance improvement. Finally, of course, coming to the operational rating solution. And this is the input for building passports, building renovation passports, as mentioned before. This is input for the National Energy Performance Database. And this is also input for the policymakers that have to set the national policy on renovation. And it triggers the performance improvements in the built environment. This is the core of the U-CERT project. So it is perception is reality, and let's change the perception from buildings to consume energy to the fact that the user of the building, the people, they use the energy, they decide how to handle the building, how to use the building, and to which extent the renovation is feasible or not. And in this slide, we try to show that it is from the current state, it is the tailored EPCs, and that is mentioned also by different presenters from the other project, that you have to help the building owners that the EPCs are not directly understandable like they are now, and depending on the target group, to give them the information they need to decide on renovation actions. Thank you for your attention. These are our project partners.
Thank you very much, Jaap, for your presentation. I'm just looking at the clock. I must be the timekeeper. We are slightly late, but as expected, because we have many things to say about project, and I myself took a little bit more time than the 5 minutes, and I apologize. We have two options, because I think we will stop the presentation something around 1:20 at least, or 1:25. So either we slightly adapt the time of the two key remaining session open discussions after that, or we keep the same time frame, which means that from the side of coordinators of sister projects, we stay a little bit after 2:30 to discuss the practical first steps for the collaboration. But we will decide that after the presentations. So let's now move to the innovation action projects, and starting with ePANACEA.
Thank you, Olivier. Thank you, André, for this introduction and this opportunity. I'm going to give a brief overview. My control, yes, right, sorry. I have a delay. Okay, I'm going to give you an overview about the ePANACEA project, Smart European Energy Performance Assessment and Certification. So, what is the main goal of ePANACEA project? Well, the main goal is to overcome the current EPC challenges. For instance, the gap between calculated and actual consumption patterns, lack of accuracy, lack of building users engagement, lack of convergence across the European Union, and so on. With this objective, ePANACEA develops an innovative, holistic, and flexible methodology for energy performance assessment and certification for buildings. The ePANACEA's methodology, currently under development, will cover relevant technical building innovations and will be integrated on an online platform, so-called SEPAP, Smart Energy Performance Assessment Platform. Well, how are we doing this at the moment? Well, developing innovation based mainly on these three pillars. Pillar 1 is related to next generation of features related to input data, covering, for instance, improved consideration of user behavior and occupant patterns, inclusion of smart and novel technologies such as on-site production of renewable energy and advanced energy management systems, and the use of building monitoring data to increase accuracy and develop a standardized format for data acquisition from different sources. Pillar 2 focus on next generation of outcomes that include, among others, new indicators useful for the development of policies that allow the energy transition and the decarbonization target by 2050. This pillar includes, for example, new global and partial indicators better understandable by end users, recommendations related to user behavior, tailored recommendation based on cost-optimal solution for deep renovation of buildings, and a double-oriented information included in the EPC. On one side, focus on administration needs based on standardized operational conditions, and on the other side, focus on building user needs based on actual use. And last but not least, Pillar 3 covers next generation of tools, because in our view, next generation of EPCs needs a next generation of web-based tools and their innovative capabilities. In this case, the whole ePANACEA methodology, based on 3 different energy assessment methods and its decision matrix for the selection of the most suitable one, will be integrated on the SEPAP. The SEPAP will also integrate inverse modeling and automated calibration procedures for dynamic building energy simulations, obtaining very accurate models, but reducing at the same time the computational costs and improving the cost effectiveness of the whole process. Well, in order to validate and disseminate the ePANACEA methodology, we have developed a network mainly comprised of these 3 aspects. In numbers, we are managing 5 regional exploitation boards covering the whole European Union through 5 geographical regions, comprising European policymakers, certification bodies, consumer associations, professional associations, and so on. We are conducting 15 workshops during the project lifetime, 3 per pilot country, focused on integration of end-user perceptions, needs, and feedback. And we are going to validate the methodology through 15 case studies, 3 per pilot country, that is to say in Austria, Belgium, Greece, Spain, and Finland. Okay, these 3 aspects are also closely linked with the methodology development. To meet the project objective and ensure the quality and impact, as well as the reliability, user-friendliness, and cost-effectiveness of the methodology, we have built these 3 feedback loops. feedback loops in order to provide inputs and support to the methodology development itself. Each of these 3 feedback loops will allow to support a specific aspect or methodology's target. For example, workshops regarding final user needs and perceptions, supports in terms of user-friendliness, clarity of information provided, enhanced user awareness of energy efficiency, and occupant behavior patterns. The activities in the context of the 5 regional exploitation boards will support in global aspects related to overall targets of the European Union. And the testing and demonstration board, through the assessment of the case studies in the 5 pilot countries, will validate the methodology from a technical perspective in terms of accuracy and cost effectiveness. Well, this is our team. The ePANACEA project involves 10 organizations from 6 different European countries. The project started in June 2020 and will end in May 2023. It's an innovation action, as you previously said. And for more information, I invite you to visit our project website at epanacea.eu. We are also encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter and follow us on our social networks in order to remain updated on recent developments. You may also choose to contact me directly via email, and thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Maria, for this overview. And now let's leave the floor to E-DYCE.
Thank you, Olivier. Welcome, everybody. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Olivier, and welcome, everybody. Yes, I would like to present E-DYCE project, which stands for Energy Flexible Dynamic Building Certification. That is for greater temporal resolution of energy performance. Okay, now it works. My name is Michal Pomianowski, and I work at Aalborg University in Denmark, and I am E-DYCE coordinator. And before we go into the project, I would like to shortly present who we are. We are 10 partners, 2 universities, 5 companies, 1 national energy agency, and 2 municipalities that are mostly involved in demonstration actions. And you can see we had a kickoff meeting that we managed to make in these difficult times physically, at least some of us. Before I will go into the objectives of the project, I wanted to spend a little bit time behind to indicate the motivation for the project. And the motivation for the project is can be presented by the results from previous studies, and some of the results of these previous studies you can see on this slide. Well, what you can see on the left-hand side graph is the result that comes from 230,000 buildings with energy performance certificate. This is the blue color, and 135,000 buildings with metered energy for heating. And the results come from Denmark. And what you can see on the graph here is that there is a quite significant performance gap between the theoretical consumption and actual consumption. The buildings rated low, EFG, perform better than they are theoretically calculated, and buildings that are rated with high energy performance certificate A, B, and C, they underperform in actual performance comparing to the theoretical calculations. These calculations, EPC calculations, in majority of the countries in member states, they are based on static calculations. This means usually there are monthly average calculations that are done. So in that way, they have a limited possibility to reflect what is the actual thermal performance of the building, that is normally dynamic performance. Yes, on the right-hand side, you can see another result from another study that has been done later on in Switzerland, and this study is on 1,172 buildings that were energy retrofitted, where the data was available from the theoretical calculations and from metered energy consumption, both before and after retrofitting. And what you can see on the graph is that if you do the energy theoretical calculations using the Swiss EPC tool, you overestimate the energy. That would be, let's say, the building that are performing very bad, F and G. So that is in a good agreement with the previous study from Denmark, which will perform actually better than the theoretical calculation indicates. And if you do the theoretical calculation after the energy renovation, then you have a much better performance than the actual performance of the building. And that is again with the good agreement from the analysis from Denmark. What does it mean? It means that the theoretical savings expected, calculated with current EPCs or static compliance tools, will overestimate the energy savings that are actually obtained. And this is an issue that requires, in our opinion, more focus and more work, and it might be a part that should be reflected in the new EPC calculation methods. So to sum up, the current EPCs reflect some kind of a limited capacity to reflect on actual energy condition of building stock or even each single building. And the second thing is that by using the static EPC results, we have a limited reliability about the results for predicting energy savings from the renovation actions. So this is the question about the reliability of the results that we produce, which is reported in many documents that I have read about EPCs so far. So this gives a bit background for the objectives of E-DYCE, which are: the first thing, we want to deliver a methodology for dynamic certification of buildings that will be based on openly available resources and tools. And here we have two actually activities. One is focusing on dynamic modeling, and another one is on feasible monitoring. There are some other activities here related to how to do the dynamic modeling in still not too complex manner, but providing at the same time credible result. And the second activity is about feasible monitoring. That is a very important aspect, in our opinion, for the broader and further adoption of monitoring into the EPC. The second objective is to develop integration framework, so some bridging agents, information model, and repository that will simply support all of the actions that are related to modeling and to monitoring of buildings. The third objective is to provide accurate and clear feedback at the right time. So this is about providing the right KPIs to end users at the right time. So there is there can be a made reflection about the operation of the building and actual energy use. Very often now the billing or the data that is available from EPC comes with a time delay, so there is no relation between the action on the building and energy use in the building. The next objective is to obtain, of course, operational energy savings. We propose a free running concept that is focusing on switching off the mechanical installations and grading the building based on that, and also on predictive model control. The last objective is to illustrate our concept and methods on number of demonstration buildings. We have a number of buildings located in Denmark, Italy, and Switzerland that will be used as a demonstration for this methodology. And in this slide, I wanted to share with you the framework for E-DYCE integration, which is a simplified framework. It is more complex in reality, but for the clarity of the concept, I used the simple one, where you can see in the middle of the concept, you have a data collection platform, an integration system, PhysX, which collects inputs from different, let's say, enablers, which are the modeling, which is the simulation data, which is the static data of the building, which are the renovation roadmaps, weather forecast, and energy demands, and which produces at the same time the output to users and to the building, so that the user and the building can be activated based on the produced output, and so there is an interaction. Finally, because time is running, I just wanted to say that the assessment level for proposed by the E-DYCE is moving the assessment of types of EPC from, let's say, the blue area, which is a design or standard operation of the building, into actual and dynamic area, which is used for monitoring, energy audit, for validation and optimization of the buildings. Yes, now I finish. Thank you very much. I believe questions are for later on.
Thank you very much, Michal. I'm looking at the clock again, so it's 1:20. If the two last projects could do their best to end around 1:30, so that we have enough time then for the remaining core discussions with CINEA and DGNR. So D2EPC now.
Good afternoon. This is Apostolos Tsolakis, and I represent the Center for Research and Technology Hellas, which is the coordinator of D2EPC, which stands for Next Generation Dynamic Digital Energy Performance Certificates for Enhanced Quality and User Awareness. Very briefly, I will present who we are. We are 12 partners and one linked third party from 7 European countries. As you can see, we are well distributed around Europe. We have 6 highly diverse pilot buildings, from individual buildings to production halls and apartments in larger districts. And we have a consortium that has a lot of expertise on the domain. Working on the objectives, D2EPC wants to introduce and establish the concept of next generation dynamic energy performance certificates, and we try to holistically address the problem, starting from secure and verified IoT infrastructure. We want to provide verified data for supporting the process of energy performance certification. We focus on building information modeling and how that could be integrated with the concept of digital twins to support the proper provision of data and data models for a unified approach. We strongly support the concept that additional information is required for next generation EPCs, so that we aim to introduce a lot of new indicators, financial and life cycle cost indicators, energy performance, and life cycle analysis, smart readiness, of course, as well as comfort and well-being. We target and couple GIS technology to our scheme, so that we can enable better policy making for neighborhood, district, or city level EPCs. We want to provide also additional services for stakeholders that can leverage on such information, such technologies. We want to deliver improved EU-based standardized dynamic asset and operational rating methodologies. So we have defined already 2 working groups, one for the asset rating and one for the operational rating, that are working together in order to exploit existing standards and provide evidence-based methodologies for both asset and operational rating, because this is something that will facilitate a lot existing as well as enriched EPCs. We envision to include polluter pays for active end user engagement, so both rewards and penalties are required in various forms, and we will explore further on this aspect and introduce it through our solution and our platform. We aim to also include AI-driven recommendations, so both for asset rating and operational rating. We explore all the potential solutions, and we provide for cost-effective solutions to all the stakeholders that are involved. And finally, what we would like to provide through all of these processes is the links for digital passport, renovation passport, and of course the renovation roadmap, as well as to explore our connection with digital logbooks. Right now, the project is in its first year. We already have some preliminary results from our first activities, which we'll try to publish in the next few months in the form of white papers. And of course, as we progress, more material will be made available to the project. And we invite you to check our website and our social media in order to be able to see our results. And of course, if there are any suggestions for further collaboration, or you would like more information, we are you're more than welcome to send us an email, and we'll get back to you. Thank you. I'll try to keep it short.
Thank you very much, Apostolos, for this presentation. And now I'm leaving the floor to my colleague at CSTB, Rofaïda Lahrech. We are coordinating the EPC RECAST project together, and Rofaïda is the technical director of the project. Yes, can you speak again just to be sure?
Hello, everybody. I am Rofaïda Lahrech from CSTB. I'm the technical director of EPC RECAST project, and Olivier Greslou is the project coordinator. The project starts at September 2020, and it will be finalized by the end of 2023. I am so happy to chair this workshop with you and to present some key points of EPC RECAST project. Okay. I tried. Okay. Okay, EPC RECAST aims to develop an innovative process for new generation of EPCs for residential buildings. A digital toolbox will support this process. We mainly consider two targets. The first one is quality and reliability of EPCs. For that, the objective is to facilitate and to improve practices for EPC assessors. And the second one is to highlight the benefits for building owners and to address appropriate indicators, appropriate innovation recommendations, and we will use the user-centric approach. So as you see in this slide, the key words are data collection, quality checks, innovation roadmaps, and non-energy benefits. Okay, we are 11 partners from different backgrounds. There are research and higher educational. There are energy providers and energy services companies, and also professionals. We are 7 countries: Belgium, Germany, Spain, Italy, Slovakia, Luxembourg, and France. The whole process will be applied over 150 dwellings in 6 countries. I will highlight the main actions and outputs. There is an action about automated data collection and data enrichment. For example, the use of on-site scan methods for data collection and also the use possibly of public databases for enrichment of data and the use of new technologies for this enrichment of data. There is action about quality procedures and consistency checks. This is linked with ISO standards using, for example, expert rules, expert values, and also data crossing tests. Another action is to use of measured energy consumption and deployment of smart meters. This should allow us to make model calibration or model verifications or method assessment method verifications, and also it will allow us to provide operational ratings indicators. There is also action about digital tools. Here, the main point is the information sharing, the common language, and the data interoperability between all these digital tools, for example, the logbooks, the building renovation passport, and the EPCs. And finally, there is a very important action which is to co-design of the certificate with owners and assessors. The idea is to provide indicators that could be appropriate by the owners and to point of the non-energy benefits, the other benefits of the renovation, and to provide a renovation roadmap. This implementation of pilot dwellings will be done after the training of EPC assessors of this process. I will finally give some messages about EPBD revision. EPC RECAST could provide some inputs, but I will focus on two messages: quality check and renovation recommendations. For quality check, the idea is introducing a mandatory minimum set of quality checks at European scale, including control indicators and data sources. It could be done through two elements: a standardized control report that could be as an annex to EPC or a separate document. And the second element is the self-checking algorithm and consistency tests to facilitate the independent controls for the assessors. These two elements are currently developed in EPC RECAST in connection with several national energy performance calculation methods and also with ISO standards. And for renovation recommendation, the idea is to link this with the renovation roadmap. The renovation roadmap backwards from NZEP level, we propose that, and we about class A of the EPC and other indicators, and we suggest to have one or several steps, both options being consistently presented to the owner to avoid lock-in effect. To do that, there are the experience and the development done in ALDREN for non-residential building, and we suggest to adapt and to improve this development within EPC RECAST project. So thank you for your attention, and we can give some other details maybe in discussion.